Beautiful.
Yeah, sithokoze chebe manje kuleyo ndawo le network amalanga la ngazi senzani sibuyile njengoba ngitshile ekuthomeni ngikhamba nomfowethu la Siphiwe Louis Mr. Ball Time sicale indaba yebafana neZimbabwe ezobe idlala namhlanje first two World Cup qualifier ichema sesitela Africa bafana nesichema seZimbabwe over to you.
Yeah, mfo umdlalo obudisikhulu noqala ukubaluleka komdlalo lo between the two countries, given the fact that iZimbabwe isazama ukungena ku-World Cup for the very first time ever, and in South Africa sidlalele ku-World Cup for 3 times in a row, but we didn't make a mark all occasions zange sikhona ukuthi siphume egroupini yethu to qualify to the quarterfinals or even further or top 16 and that. So also kwenza ukuthi kube west for South Africa indaba yokuthi South Africa zange ikhona qualify for the AFCON 2022. So lokho ke kwenza ukuthi isichema nesitshaba sibe ngaphasi kwegandelelo elinenkulu ukuthi perhaps maybe if we can qualify for World Cup, maybe that glory can substitute the disappointment ekade sibe nayo earlier on in this year. But I think when you look at the two teams, the approach from Abanduli, ngicabanga ukuthi Abanduli bathwele inqhema ekade zingasi English abazifisako from the beginning, because abadlala e-Europe or some of the players that were affected with COVID, they've had to be eliminated from the squads. Njengoba siqala lapha isquad se-Zimbabwe, umdlalo njengo Marshall Munetsi, odlala lapha ku-Reims ku-League 1 in France, it's also one of the players that will probably not make it because of some of the restrictions from these clubs. But in for as far as in they're a little bit easier, as in they're not. So I don't know exactly how does it work, because the league does raise up the risk areas, COVID-19 risk areas. But I think then eventually they leave it to the clubs, for them to escalate the seriousness with, okay, you high risk, but we can let you go if you do certain things. Maybe if we are quarantined or something like that. But I think a player like Marshall Munetsi, definitely his team is not releasing him for this fixture. And then in South Africa, it's a very nice and fresh squad. But I think we can't predict exactly how we think we're going to perform, because this is a very fresh squad. Most players are having their first caps at the senior national team at this level of competition of the World Cup. But I think I think the coach, it's all about the coach, Hugo Bros, right now. I'm not really convinced with the developments coming to us in terms of how the coach approaches it. When I look at the squad, the 32-man squad, I was very convinced that the coach has actually watched Olympics, Kosafa, the one that South Africa managed to win without conceding a goal. But then, when we went down to 22-man to 23-man squad, then I was shaking my head. Okay, for me. For example, Unjabulo Ngcobo from Kaizer Chiefs, I think is one of the best defenders that the country has. Umkipile, Kodisang, Umkipile. Also, there's a comment that the coach made regarding Umlungwane from Golden Arrows. Is too much for a goalkeeper also at the international level. So if he did watch these games and he did follow all these players about then Umlungwane with his weight, because he weight change. It's been like this since he arrived at PSL. So I think that there's a huge influence to that selection by our Helman Kelele and the other assistant coaches. I don't think it's his squad. He did say he did watch the games. That's why he selected that squad. But any Indo and Gicho is because the goalkeeper Ronwen Williams I mean, I think it was the biggest fault Olympics why we actually lost, especially umdlalo Japan, umdlalo Mexico. But he then becomes the captain of the club. So you ask yourself, I mean, if you're a coach, international coach, and you're watching these games and you're watching the types of mistakes made by Ronan Williams, I'm sure you'll want to look at the other ones. What do they have to offer? You know, so, but immediately he gives him an arms belt. So, Ntabanguti, Lapayana, Abandulago, so far, it's Herman Kelele and his technical team. Otherwise, the coach, the tactics of the game, I think will be coming from his coach in the starting lineup, because the coach was Boni and Kambe, good training. You know, already they've got like a 4 days training. So Mbandulu wabonile abadlali uyazi ukuthi lo dlala kuphi in terms of the positions in the field. So uzokhetha from lapho ukuthi from training who shows better quality to start. But I think in terms of the selection, I'm not really confident. When I look at that squad, if I think we are growing the squad and we are trying to get experience, I think it's a very good squad in terms of the age, in terms of opportunities. Kotwana, if we want to qualify, I don't think we can qualify with this squad. The final 23, and we saw 2 days ago, there wasn't really an explanation why, because there's 1 or 2 players above COVID. Tabiso Kutumela has been infected with COVID, so he's out of the squad because of that. So I think players like those that are sort of popping out, so they're giving an opportunity to Lava Cambilero. But for the fact that Guti Azange Achuse from his first 23-man squad, I don't think he can start with him, because I think he still has enough defense. You know, Tibang Peti, Austin Dube, I think the defender from Hapoel Tel Aviv. So I think if you look at Kulu, Siana Kulu, yeah. So if you look at those type of defenders that are still there, no, I don't think that Njabule can start, you know, because it wasn't his first choice. But I think again, when you look at Iskema, say Zimbabwe, for me, it's the strongest squad between the two. When you look at the experience of some of these players that are there.
Uqinisile mfowethu, into ngisathi ngisazokubuza yena ukuthi the more iminyaka iya, is the more isichema seZimbabwe on paper sibukela more stronger than South Africa.
Yeah, at the moment, I think when you look at the two squads, I think Zimbabwe looks stronger for me, even if because I was listening to an interview here, your coach, he was being worried with the overseas-based players don't get enough time to play, and also referring more to the players that are playing in South Africa and those that are playing in Europe. Also, the late arrival of some of the players that came to the camp. So he was not really excited about the preparations. But I think that when you look at the squad in totality, let's say Zimbabwe, I think for me, like you say, on paper, it looks a little bit stronger. For example, I mean, if we can try and look at some of the possible starters for Umdlalo today, I think Lapemuva, Upasera, I think might start on the right-hand side of the defense. I don't think he's got a lot of competition. Kelvin Moyo, Divine Lunga, I think they're quite good competition to start. Also, I think there's a player, William Steamer, very good player. He's playing in Zimbabwe. I think he might just start ahead of the other ones. And then on the left-hand side, there is Chimwemwe. Chimwemwe Nayo, I think, is a very good player. He might probably go on the left-hand side when you look at the competition, Anayo. And then I think when you look at Pagati, Napambili, I think that Zimbabwe's got a lot of sort of like utility players that can play both mid and strikers, you know, because most of their strikers are winger strikers. You know, not Kalama strikers and Kama Billiard, you know, he can play wide in the midfield. He can play up front, winger striker. He can play center striker. When you look at Musona, he's probably the only front man who can stay up front. I think now he's probably going to start, and I think he's the captain for the team. Also, there's a brilliant striker from Zimbabwe who signed with Burnley at the beginning of last season, but is on loan in League One for Olympique Lyon in France. Kadiwere, and I heard good thing at Tino Kadiwere. So I think that's a player to look out for. It's a new player that we're not used to, but it's a very good player. And I watched a couple of videos from him. He's a very, very good striker, but also he's a striker who's a winger striker playing from the left, more like a Cristiano Ronaldo type of a striker. So I think we need to look at some of those players. And I think in the middle, unfortunately, William Katsande didn't get enough game time because we know he just swapped clubs, and also last season Beranga Beregiswa Kulu Kaizer Chiefs. But now we know that he's joined Isusikukune, and he hasn't started since the league has started. He hasn't played any game, so the coach probably would have looked at the lack of game time, and that's why I'm busy. But I think they need that type of a player because they don't have a replacement, like a direct replacement for him. But I think Kamusoko, I think is a player that might probably get into that position. And when you look at Chikwende as well, Chikwende can defend, but we know that he likes making long balls, long passes going forward. He's not exactly like a workaholic like Willard Katsande. And I think that, yeah, those type of players, I think starting lineup, I'm expecting to see all these names in Krumangao starting lineup. South Africa, I think it's obvious. I think Ronan Williams already he's been given the captain arms belt. He's going to start on the goals. I'm expecting Austin Dube to start because I don't see a strong competitive for the left centre back, considering the fact that he's playing with the left foot. So I think he's going to start there. I'm not sure if Mabilis will be given the left back, but he's a stronger competitor for the left back. The coach might play, I think, 4-3-3, Nankala 3-4-3 or 4-3-3, one of those two systems, because I'm looking at how the COSAFA was won. The Ababandu look at 3-4-3, so they might try and attempt that system again. But when you look at the Olympic squad, David Notwane was playing. Sometimes was playing 4-5-1, sometimes was playing 4-3-3 when he was really under pressure. He was trying to get out and try to get equalizer. But I think that they will have different systems when they defend, and also when they attack, they'll have different systems. What we don't know is the kind of personnel. Ubani will Pesitao start? Will he play winger striker? Will he play midfield? Will he play striker? But I think Mahopa, Evidence Mahopa is definitely starting. I think after the performance I think is level Olympics, I think there's no doubt that he can carry the team forward. Also, I think the midfield from Amazulu. I think also the guy with the dreadlocks. I think I forget his name. Sitebe, yeah. I think Sitebe might start as well, because I think he did well in the COSAFA, so I think he might start again, and Marshall the midfield. But everything else is going to be a surprise in terms of South Africa. But for Zimbabwe, I think they're on the front foot for this one, considering that they are playing from home. So I think that Zimbabwe is on the front foot on this one.
Yeah, asithembe ukuthi mhlambe iSouth Africa izokudlala kuhle noma idlala adlala basebancane nje abasakhulako abasafikako, mara sithembe ukuthi sizokubukela igame emnandi. Sithembe ukuthi mhlambe nokuya phambili bazokubutha kube isicheme esisijamelako ibuye la bafana ebesiyazi yangaphambili. Mfo asiragele phambili man. Ase KZN ekunendaba ezingidanisako la ezivela ku Royal AM ukuthi angathi abadlali zange bafune ukutraina juthi ukuthi mhlawumbe abakaphatheki kuhle, abakathenjiswa izinto bebathenjiswe zona. Kufanele ukuthi mhlawumbe abanye abadlali zange bababhadele imali ezipheleleko, nendawo bahlala kiyo akusindawo aba-comfortable ngayo. Idanisa kakhulu uma sicabanga ukuthi uMamkhize sicabanga ukuthi uprofessional kangangani when you come into business, but masokuvela into ezifana nalezi siyatana mfo.
Yeah, look, I think if you read Ilona, profile of Mamkize and how she gets to be a millionaire, it's not really through progressive growth per se, but I think it's more of an inheritance. You know, Abbas Albake a very strong had very strong hold with the ANC, which is the ruling party in South Africa, and I think her wealth is more of inheritance. You know, is, compared to productivity. You know, but I think without giving a slap to her, we need to give her benefit of the doubt because she did have. I think they've got approximately 3 to 4 years in the Glad Africa, you know, with the real kings, you know, her and the brothers. So I think that they do have some experience of managing, even if her alone, she looks to be more impatient, you know, she looks more reckless, like she doesn't look professional. Her approach is more emotional. I'm not sure how much of that has to do with the fact that she's a woman, but I think that she doesn't behave similarly to the other chairmen who are there in the PSL. But nasikhuluma ngendaba le, I think ikhuluma ngesahlakalo esenzeke during the week. What happened is on Wednesday, 2 days ago, the team did not want to train because over 15 players did not get paid all of their salaries. Uyakhumbula mfokuthi i-Celtics ithengise i-status sabo ku-Royal AM, and this thing happened in the middle of last month, which was August. So what that means that, you remember we were calling for the details of the transaction, which we never really got. And on our show, we tried to get one of their biggest fan, Ubotham Sila, to try maybe give us some of the details that we really wanted. But unfortunately, we couldn't do the interview due to network. And some of the details that I think I wanted to find out from him was the fact that like the salary for August, who was on the salary for August, what was the agreement between the two, and also it was the fact that the deal yaga Patrick Tiniap, we know that Celtics was in debt with the PSL for the debt yaga Patrick Tiniap, 3 million. We didn't get to hear what were the payment arrangements. So I wanted to get to know that what were the payment arrangements, if it was going to be a 2-month payment, or there was going to be a lump sum, or there was going to be a spread of the whole season. We didn't get to know those details, and because details now, what is the worth of Bloemfontein Celtics? Does the 50 million rand that has been talked about include the deal Yagatini or doesn't? Does it include the salaries of the August or doesn't it? Yeah, but so these are the type of details that are there that we don't know. So we can't really come and now slap Keys and say she doesn't have experience to manage, because these are spill-offs that are probably still remaining between those two transactions. And you know, when it comes to the accommodation, we need to remember that Royal AM is got their own base and their own camp, isolated on the outside of the city in Maritzburg. There, they used to sit all the players that belong to the club. It's a clubhouse. So that clubhouse is good enough for any development team. It's actually, it's one of the most luxurious accommodation for any development structure. But now remember that they didn't get to the DSTV Premiership on promotion. They got there through their status, which means that they didn't have enough time to prepare for the experienced players, because our experienced players are not the same as the development players. So whatever you give them, they like, they appreciate. These ones have done it all. So when you talk about these guys have done it all. They've earned the monies. They've got families now. Somewhere. Somewhere. So when you start incorporating deals like those, they become more complicated. You know, they need more attention than the younger ones. So, but what happens is, because in doing Jaro on a Friday, would you get into your car, go put fuel in and go to Durban so that you can go in camp because the league starts in less than 4 days. So ngento yenze ukuthi abadlali laba bahlalisane nalaba, you know. So now what yaqala abadlali laba base bangakamukeli the spill off of the transactions between Celtics and Royal AM. But I think if we can give her a little bit more time to try sort out her house, because we hear more than 60 available at the club. So obviously the technical staff will have to work on all these players and assess them. And how does it do that? Because it doesn't have pre-season. Already the league is on. So with Bafundela umsebenzi on the job. So I think that we need to give them a little bit more time, and then maybe we'll see how it works out. I'm not really sure if it's really, I'm not really sure if it's 6 players. Okay.
All right. Yeah,
I was saying, like, I'm not really sure if it's 60 players that are available at the camp. There might be 60 players registered under the club, because we know when the club bought the status, they registered all their players, including the ones that have gone to Chakuma. So I'm not sure how many players are in the camp, but what I know for sure is that there are 15 players who were not paid, and actually they pay quota training. So there was a meeting after that, and I think it was yesterday. So I'm not sure what meeting local Benjani, but there was a meeting always very chairman, I think, to try and explain some of the challenges that the club is facing. But I don't think that we can panic. Ngoba, we can't compare this situation Chakuma, because that one was simply the lack of funds. The chairman did say that he can't afford the club. I'm thinking maybe he took some of his reserves and purchased the club when he bought vets. So maybe that's why immediately he had a financial turmoil. But when it comes to this one, I don't think it's a financial issue. I just think it's a structural issue where the technical team needs to speed up the process. Who is the team that they're supposed to go with to the league and release those that are not needed. And then from there, I think then all those personal goals will be sorted out. Personal goals, what they want to achieve, and already some of them are in the middle of their personal goals. So for you to entertain those goals, you first need to sort out your house and then deal with those kind of big contracts.
Ngiyathokoza mfo isibekelwe nakamnandi izwakala kamnandi khulu. Mfo i-window period ivaliwe njengoba mhlambe besiqalile, angazi ukuthi mhlambe kukhona mhlambe okuvelileko okusurpriseileko or nofana bekuthule khulu ku-window period this year, this season.
No, look, I think after a very long time, this has been one of the most exciting window periods that we've had, both locally and internationally. When you look at the fact that JDR Stars, they signed 24 players at a go. 10 of those players are coming directly from the PSL. When you look at the fact that Kaizer Chiefs went and signed 8 new players at a go, not just new players, but also the technical staff, the management. When you look at that, this has been actually one of the most exciting pre-seasons. In terms of Amakama, that I'm looking forward to see how they plan out. I think obviously the recent one would be Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. I think we're very interested to see how they're going to fare, both at PSG and Manchester City and Manchester United. I think that those two are the biggest, without a doubt. And also, I think Christian, not Cavani, Rafael Varane from Real Madrid to Manchester United. I wasn't expecting that one. That was an interesting move for me. And also the recall of Romelu Lukaku back to Chelsea. I wasn't expecting that. I think also another deal that also shook everyone's mentality, I think, was the number 10 for Manchester City. I think that Jack
Sterling.
Grealish,
Grealish,
not that it wasn't expected as such. I think that wasn't the big issue. I think the news was the amount with which was paid for him, because a lot of fans think that he doesn't deserve that. I mean, when you calculate the number of goals that he has in the league and the number of assists, he's not anywhere close to Kevin De Bruyne or even Arnold Alexander, who's the right back from Liverpool. So for him to be paid, I mean, 100 million euros, 100 million pounds, I think it was a little bit overvalued. That was an interesting one. And then I think that another one, I don't know if you saw it, I think Kylian Mbappe's deal didn't go through from PSG to Real Madrid. I think that was going to shake the market as well if it did happen. But I'm happy that it didn't happen, because I sort of think with it sometimes some European clubs, they tend to overpay the players and shake the market negatively. You know, as a player manager, I don't like to see that, because it puts pressure on upcoming players to develop earlier, to develop quicker, because it means that the value of the players go up, the teams are paying higher and they're expecting more in terms of the quality. And then I think Kurt Zuma. Kurt Zuma moved from Chelsea to West Ham. I wasn't expecting that one as well. I think it was actually an unfair move. I think Kurt Zuma deserved to stay at the club, and he did very well last season. But it seems as if Silva and Rudiger are the first choice defenders for Thomas Tuchel. And it looks like Kurt Zuma, he didn't have a space for him. And I really feel sorry for him. He's a player who grew up with the Chelsea, loaned to a few clubs in the English league. But I think for me, he's a very good player. And I think that this will do nothing but to improve West Ham. And I think kudos to David Moyes. I mean, he continues to make those great moves. And it's not a lone move, right? It's a permanent move. And another one, I think Emerson Royal, I don't know if you know him, a very good midfielder from Barcelona, also wasn't getting game time. He's now signed a permanent deal with Tottenham Hotspurs. So that's also going to be an interesting movement to see how he fares, at the London club. Antoine Griezmann from France. Also, he did a loan move back to Atletico Madrid. We know what he moved 2 years ago to Barcelona. So it seemed as if he's not on the coach's plan for this season, but he's gone on loan back to Atletico Madrid with an option to renew at 40 million euros. So I think that makes clear, I don't think he's going to go back to Barcelona, because Barcelona wants to go back to the stature where they were, and they thought players like Antoine Griezmann would probably come and help with the likes of Coutinho and Messi to try and get them there, and it didn't work out for them. So he goes back to Atletico Madrid. And I think obviously we spoke about the Cristiano Ronaldo one, but I think what happened well, they released the news very late last night. Most of us got the news today in the jersey. Cristiano Ronaldo. I think there was a tussle with which jersey will he hold, and really sales. And I think it was a bad management from Manchester United, because when they signed him already, they shouldn't have spent even more than a day without knowing which jersey, because that affects the merchandise revenue worldwide. So I think you might have seen what happened with Lionel Messi when he was bought, and the number 30 jersey was early revealed, and the jersey and all the shops worldwide, they just went out of stock. Immediately they sold over 12 million units within 6 hours or so. So I think that Manchester United, they lost out an opportunity there. They should have done the same. The number 9 jersey was the one that was being spoken about, because we know that Edinson Cavani is the one who's currently wearing number 7. But I think after a few communications and few conversations and negotiations, eventually it looks as if Edinson Cavani agreed to let go of the jersey, because Manchester United now, their issue is they're trying to make the number 7 jersey the most important jersey for Manchester United. You remember which jersey like a Lambatwa ma-stars nama-legends amakhulu wesichema noba labo David Beckham. Cristiano Ronaldo took it from David Beckham, when
yes.
in 2018, yes, when he went to Real Madrid. So he took it from him and he made it even bigger. And Kumbule also, Eric Cantona used to be on the same jersey. So these are very, very big legends. So I think that was the case here in Manchester United to say we're trying to keep jersey number 7, the most important jersey for the club, but most importantly for the player, because everywhere Ronaldo went, he went with the number 7 jersey, and I think it will increase the value of the number 7 jersey across Europe, because it will then associate number 7 jersey with the star, the legend, not legend, but the superhero of the game, which is Cristiano Ronaldo, who would have retired at the time. So I think that was their issue. But I think I'm happy that they got to that conclusion. And I think it's a different scenario compared to that one, Lionel Messi, because Lionel Messi, never really moved clubs. He's always been with Barcelona, and I think that he feels different about jersey numbers. He hasn't really got that stature. He's not used to that, and it doesn't mean a lot to him. But I think I was really happy with that. And then I think when we look at the local market, I think there was only one movement that I've noted. That one of Azola Chobeni. I think it's Azola Chobeni, who's gone on loan to JDR from Orlando Pirates. So I think I'm not sure why they release him, because I think at the back they do need defenders. Pirates, I think if there's any position that they're weak on, they need to improve. I think for me is the striking force and the defense. In midfield, I think they are sorted there, especially the center defense. I think they're sorted there, but the center pairing, I think they haven't really got something really going very well for them there. Yeah.
Ngiyathokoza mani for isikhathi sakho. Sibambe kamnandi khulu namhlanje Paul Kulcha ngolosihlanu. Sikhumbule-ke mfo ukuthi nosiphelele ntshangasi bamnikeze i-green light kuMarumo Galazi ngathi bamtlikitlile. Obamanyisa uyazibandula, angazi bamtlikitlela ne-Platinum City Rovers. Eziveleko kodwa ngezinto mhlawumbe u-Ansu Fati yambona weBarcelona nangumsoso semncane player ona at 18 to 19 years old ukuhamba net lapho bamnikela izize bembathwa nguleno jezi number 10. Kodwana ngathi seseku-injured nyana sombona after 3 or 2 weeks nyana. What a good move. Mfo ngithokozile mani isikhathi sakho, angazi ukuthi mhlawumbe zikhona esizithiyako mhlawumbe esikhona ukuyivala.
Yeah, I think there were breaking news 2 days ago locally. I think one of the great servers of the game, Utlompo Kekana from Mamelodi Sundowns, has hanged his boot. Decided to retire after a long... Yeah, I think it's his personal ambitions that made him retire, because he wanted to retire at Sundowns, given the fact that this year he was making 10 years with the club, since he was signed by Pitso Mosimane back then in 2011. So I think that he's got 3, he's won more accolades than any other captain at Sundowns. This includes 5 league wins. So I think that he's really done well for the club. And if you look at what he has said, the type of goals that is produced for the club, those long-range goals, I think yes, I think Wayne Sunnyland will never forget him. That's for sure, because he's really made him look like an average goalkeeper. So I think there was a long negotiation between him. Remember, Sundowns, they made a decision to say that Langerman and Trompo Kekana will be loaned out to Swallows, because they were not part of the plans. But that's why Langerman has signed early. But then there was a hold in terms of Trompo Kekana, because he didn't agree. Himself and his manager, they didn't agree, because he didn't want to move. So they were trying to get whatever deal that they could get, just to stay one more season longer at Sundowns. He really, really tried. But remember, like I said on Monday, that Sundowns, when you look at that midfield, they need to check up their midfield, because Mutobi Mvala, who's also been released from the Bafana camp this morning due to COVID, I don't think it's good enough in that midfield. Andy Lijali is a very good midfielder, but I think that he's a little bit old. He doesn't have the legs anymore. And between him and Klompo, one of them needed to be sacrificed. And I think that the coaches decided to sacrifice Klompo Kekana. I think that's how they got to that decision. It can be emotional. And remember, they just released Mabunda, and Etienne Mabunda. So they released two players coming from the same position. Mabunda, for me, was still young as well. It's just that he was an injury-prone player, but was still young as well. But out of all these 50 players that the club has, they don't have good substitute in the middle. So they need to try work out that midfield, especially the holding midfield. It's only Rivaldo Coutier who's solid, who's young, who's at his peak, who they can rely on. Because Andy Lijali can't play like that, when you look at his age. But I just want to give thanks to Thombo Kekana and say, thank you so much for being a great sportsman of the game, great ambassador on and off the field. We need more of players like Thombo Kekana who really are outstanding players and also keep their discipline. Because for like myself, I work with players, and I can tell you that most talented players are very difficult to manage. And most of the time it's because of discipline, basuke baphakanyiswe khulu babizwe ngama-stars at the very early stage bese they lose it, as a manager lapho kunye nawo ugcina ubancenga, lapho kunye uyaba-advise ubone ukuthi uyabhala, ugcina umncenga lapho kunye involve the family. So I think players like Hlompo Kekana, they show true sportsmen and a great spirit of the game and how it can be done at the highest level. So I think I thank him for that, because we can use him as an example when we talk to the younger ones and say, look at the players like Thombo Kekana, move from here to here and went to Sundowns when there were a lot of players that were playing there, but he managed to get a starting lineup all the time.
Ngiyathokoza mfo isikhathi sakho okuhle kodwa kuhlompo Kekana, and good luck to Bafana Bafana. Okwanamhlanje mfo ngiyathokoza isikhathi sakho nangomuhlo ungalazi asihlangane ngoMvulo. Mina ngingu-Paul Kulcha, umalumela bomtshana ngathi umrathu ngasenza domnyana ubabaka amahle nozizamaqaba. Ngiyathokoza.
Thank you so much.
Reverend.